Hello everybody. During the month of July in our Wednesday videos, we've been looking at tips for weary Christians. I've saved the best passage of scripture for the last. Matthew 11:28 through 30. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. I remember my first backpacking trip when I was a teenager. I probably weighed about 130 pounds, and I packed so much stuff that I ended up with a 50-pound pack on my back. That 5-mile hike felt like 100 miles. I still remember it now. Perhaps we are weary because we carry so many burdens. Maybe like the Pharisees, you're burdened with rules of religion. This passage at the end of Matthew 11 is best tied to chapter 12, which follows, in which Jesus condemns the Pharisees for laying so many burdens and regulations on their followers. Is there stuff you feel you must do or can't do if you're going to be good? The Pharisees had so many rules and regulations one had to follow. 1,000 things you must say no to, no, and 1,000 things you must do. Hoops through which you must jump, sacrifices that must be made, boxes that must be checked off. Perhaps you are weary because you carry the burden of religion. Or perhaps you're weary because you carry the burden of guilt, something you have done or still do that weighs heavy on your heart. Or perhaps you're weary because you carry the burden of fear and anxiety for the future. Or maybe you're weary because you carry the burden of anger and resentment and rage. Maybe you're weary because you carry a burden of grief, a heavy, heavy burden. Perhaps you're weary because you carry the burden of a broken relationship you don't know how to heal. Maybe you're weary because you carry the burden of responsibility for a business or a family or for someone else's health and well-being. Perhaps you're weary because you carry the burden of ill health for yourself. Maybe you're weary because you carry the burden of reputation, this desire to be well received and appreciated by others. If you're weary today, I invite you to ask what burdens you're carrying that you need to lay down. It is interesting, though, Jesus doesn't tell us that there is no burden to carry. Instead, we are to put His yoke upon us. A yoke was a common image that a rabbi would use for his or her teaching and way of life. And there are two things about this Jesus yoke. First, it is simple and positive. Love God, love your neighbor. That's it. That's simple. You don't have to work all day to learn and follow 613 laws. Instead, love God, love your neighbor. Second, remember that a yoke combines two oxen so that they will pull together. And as you try and live and love as Jesus taught, you discover that Jesus is in the yoke with you and is pulling most of the load. You're simply walking beside Him. So when we do that, Jesus makes us a promise. He makes it twice in these same 3 verses. I will give you rest. That's what we need. So my friends, lay down your burdens and take up Jesus' yoke, and He will give you rest. Love you, St. Luke's. I'll see you Sunday.